Our guest today, some would say, gee, she's got it all. But there's more to this story. Yes, she's got a wonderful family, a great job, owns a business or one of the owners in a business, loves the work that she does, and has her health and fitness. But that wasn't always the case. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Our guest, Cari Bode, ran her first half marathon in 2005, followed by a full marathon in 2006. She was in Boston the year that the bombing happened. And there's more to her story, but I'm going to let her share that with you. So, Cari, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So let's start off on the business front. Tell me a little bit about the business that you're a partner in and what you do.
It's South Country Equipment Limited. We are a full-line John Deere dealership. We have 8 locations across southern Saskatchewan, including Regina and Moose Jaw and Weyburn and some other surrounding communities. I've grown up in the business. I'm third generation at this point now. My grandfather had started the Weyburn dealership taken over in 1965. My father took over the Regina one back in 78, and actually going back now to 2006, we merged to become from Watson Tractor to become South Country Equipment with a couple of the family businesses that had some of the other surrounding stores as well. So over the last dozen plus years, we've grown to 8 locations, and it's basically still kind of a big family business. Primarily, most of our partners involve my brother, my uncle, my husband, my cousin, and a couple others as well. So it's really kind of exciting to see the way we've grown to over 200 full-time employees. And it's just exciting to see all the changes that have taken place in the industry. The ag industry is constantly evolving. I mean, there are those who see it as something that's always been there and, always will be a key part of the economy in this province. But there's so much that's changed, especially in the last, I find anyway, 15, 20 years with technology. I mean, everything now going into all the guidance equipment, the ability for equipment to be able to, to be with the telematics connected to some of these units, reporting back to our service departments when something's running a little warm or it could be a mechanical breakdown coming. We can actually predict that coming and have technicians sending out parts before things actually break down. It's just, there's a lot of, just the advancements that have taken place. Yeah. There's even some things that we've been working on as our own dealer group. We've developed an app that called Crop Intelligence that allows us to. It's really kind of really cool how it works. We have best place put. It allows soil moisture levels to be to interpret and collect the data based on the weather and the moisture in the ground, and it allows from there we are able to predict water-driven yield potential for dry land farming, which is kind of a first in that area. And we've had that out in the last few years, and it's grown exponentially, and we've got these weather stations set out across Western Canada and part of the northern states now. And that's just something we develop in-house with our, staff in Saskatchewan and been able to, farm that technology out. So it's just one of the exciting things that, I never would have imagined, 20 some years ago that we would be doing.
Well, and no one would have been able to imagine that, right? It used to be that farming was small business, and that is not the case anymore. Farming is big business in Western Canada and in North America. And depending on whether or not you've, kind of ever touched farming, from a family perspective, everybody has a bit of a different understanding of it. But I married into a farm family, and we don't spend a ton of time on the farm. But even that's been an education for me, just, kind of learning peripherally. So that's been quite interesting. So, and agriculture has not always been a business where women were equally involved. So tell me about the transition. What was the conversation with mom and dad when you're like, no, I'm going into the family business, even though it's agriculture? How did that all happen?
Well, it's kind of funny because when I been in Regina since the late 70s, and I went to the University of Regina, studied business admin there. And my first goal wasn't to jump back into the business. I did a few little things on my own, and I finally kind of got back in the door. I think I started right down at the bottom, and I was filling in, I think, for a maternity leave and reception and some basic accounting. And and that was kind of where I got back in full time in the late 90s. And I worked my way up in the finance side of things and handled all the basic accounting and finance. And right now, my primary role is in sales administration management, handling all the paperwork and all the contracts and financing that comes in for all of our 8 locations. And so that's kind of where my focus had always been, kind of in the finance and administration side. But, being a family business and where it's at, you're a little part of everything. Whatever things come up, and it's just, I don't know. I guess I've always known it. I said, I back to day one, I grew up knowing that you might get a call from a customer needing parts or having a problem during Christmas dinner, or it could be, and you just kind of realize that you're sort of on call all the time, but there are so many good things that come with it. And I think the biggest part is the people. We have fantastic people that we work with, and the relationships we have with our customers. And that's the part I really enjoy is that the relationships on that side of things. So you're right. There aren't a whole lot of women in agriculture. And I think before I've been at some events back in the past where people look at me and ask, "Oh, so what does your husband do?" And I'm like, "Well, no, actually I'm the one who works here too."
Exactly.
So it's a learning thing. And I think that's a way a lot of industries that were traditionally male managed and you usually saw that sort of thing. But yeah, exactly. But I think it's changing, and we have more women in the business than we did 20, 30 years ago as well, in different roles. I think it's exciting to see, and the opportunity is there for both genders, and it's great to see.
Exactly. I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to talk with a number of the nominees this year for the YWCA Awards of Distinction. And one of the common threads that is evolving from these conversations is how our traditional beliefs have really started to evolve in the last number of years. Almost every woman that I talked to this year is filling some sort of non-traditional role. And what I said to one of my guests was, we call it non-traditional when we think about industries where women didn't comprise 50% of the workforce. How many years or generations will it be before we don't make that differentiation, where it's not about non-traditional anymore, but it's simply, this woman is filling this role? Do you know what I mean?
I do. I don't think we're there yet. I really don't. But I think we're acknowledging that it's, that was a problem. I think is a big part of it. And it's definitely making steps in the right direction. And I think it's about, opening doors and allowing, and I think those of us who are in roles that maybe aren't always considered traditional need to, be able to mentor and encourage others to step up and do the same thing, because it makes it easier. All it takes is the door open, and more people realize that there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And, I give so much credit to any woman who, whatever role she's in, and especially if you're working full time, you're parenting right now, we're kind of on the coming out of COVID. Well, you've had to be the teacher, and as women, we wear so many hats. Not that men don't, because men absolutely do as well. But when something happens with a kid at school, it's not usually dad that gets the phone call, right?
No, you're exactly right. And it's about having that, the flexibility and the ability to multitask and juggle. And there's always been a lot of that. And I've been fortunate, I guess that's one thing about being in a family business. I've always been able to juggle a bit. For those first few years when my kids were younger, I was able to work a little less. But in the same breath now, the last number of years, when my kid, they're now 19 and 21, but they realize that, there are times that I'm putting in 60+ hour weeks, and that's just the way it works cyclically. And it's a business, during seeding and harvest, that's when you need to be on call. Exactly. And that's just the nature of the business. Yeah. And I think they've helped learn that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So let's talk for a minute about some of the information we learned from the nomination with the YWCA. So you're a business partner, but you're also a mom and an avid fitness runner, but you had some health challenges in the last little while. So talk to us about running and how that is probably your happy place, and what's happened the last couple of years.
Running is definitely my happy place. I was never an athlete as a kid, and I sort of stumbled into it in, I guess, mid 2000s, around 2005 or so. And it was actually on a dare from a colleague of mine who said, I think we could maybe run a 5K. Do you think you could do that? If you do it, I'll do it. And, it was I was really nervous. It was totally out of my comfort zone, as I was the kid with always had a sprained ankle or a twisted knee or something silly. And I was, like I said, I had no athletic skills whatsoever. And it was funny. It just kind of clicked. I ran that first race, and I think I placed in my age group, and I thought, wow, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it was just surrounding yourself. I found that the running community in this city is phenomenal, and people just encourage you to, push your limits and try something new. And well, you're right. Within another year and a half, I'd run my first marathon, and I was hooked. And then it was about getting a Boston qualifier. And, so I'd run Boston a few times, including the year of the bombing. And I met one of my dear friends there, and we went back and ran it the next year. And, it all kind of spiraled from there. And I was working on finishing the 6 World Marathon Majors. And I was in fall of 2018, I was about to do 10 weeks out from running Tokyo, which would have been my last one. And I had just a little health issue that something seemed a little off. And so I went to my doctor and found out that it just out of the blue that I had this rare aggressive cancer, rhabdomyosarcoma, which is generally found in young children. And that was it. And it was that you needed major surgery within a week. They were going to do surgery, and that within 2 weeks of that, they would start what would be 6 to 12 months of aggressive chemo. And I sort of just kind of went, wow, how am I supposed to kind of just stop life for a year? And, but you know what? It all worked out for the best. It was kind of, my things turned out way better than anyone could have thought. And it was a rough spell there. I was, after being someone who thrived on having my, morning run every day or my workout at the gym, it went from all to zero like that. And I was, it was 6 months later, and I was struggling just to try to walk. But it's coming back. So I walked the 10K at Queen City Marathon last September. And I've worked my way up. I did my first half marathon again in February, right before the COVID thing hit down in New Orleans. So I'm still trying to train now, and hopefully I'm slow, but I'm getting back there, and I'm really excited. It's just, I have a new appreciation. I used to, be more concerned about times. And right now it's just, I get to do this. And I'm so excited that my body is letting me do these things again. So it's, it's all kind of come full circle. And, the running community has been what, my friends that I've met through that were a lot of people who supported me through the whole cancer thing as well. So I've just, it's been wonderful. And I can't say enough about, the people I've met through running. It was through that I got involved with Marathon Matters. And I mean, about stepping outside of your comfort zone sometimes. I was at the AGM several years back, and my daughter I dragged along with me because it was one of those days that I had a busy day at work and I didn't want to leave her alone in the evening. So I brought her along to the meeting, and she convinced me to step up and be president of the club, which I felt I was grossly underqualified for. But, it's just like, she's like, well, why not, Mom? You could do that. And did that for a few years. And it was, I met, it was just great. Directed a few races. And it's funny how, you just sometimes have to step outside of your comfort zone a little. And some of those decisions are the best ones you make. And I think I've learned a lot about, leadership and, relationships and working with people all through a lot of the things I've done volunteering as well. I've been involved with the Queen City Marathon organizing committee and board for a number of years too. And once again, I just can't say enough about, surrounding yourself with people that bring you up and inspire you. And it just, you can do good things when you get people together that are like-minded and, have a positive attitude. And want to do big things. It's exciting.
Exactly. When you started there, you talked about the majors, and as someone who's not a runner, that meant nothing. So what does that mean?
I'm sorry. It's a running geek kind of thing. For a lot of runners, running Boston. I think most people who don't run have heard of the Boston Marathon, and it's kind of I guess the way I always like to think about it, it's the everyman's Olympics. I mean, as a runner, if you can, it requires a qualifying time to be able to, based on your age and gender, to qualify to even enter. And if you kind of can run a race at a qualifying event, which is another marathon that you run under a certain time, it's always kind of considered one of those things that, I look at a sport like if I was a football player, I couldn't see myself likely, playing in the Super Bowl or the Grey Cup. But I mean, as a runner, everyone kind of has that opportunity to strive and be able to have a chance to once, run at the Boston Marathon, where the best in the world are out there way ahead of you, but you're in the same event the same day, and kind of makes you feel like, you're part of something special. And so to be able to run Boston is kind of a lot of runners kind of on their bucket list of one day I'd like to do it. And kind of to go along with that, the world's best, that the elites that run Boston, there's a series called the World Marathon Majors. And every year, I mean, the elites that run it, there's a prize purse of over $1 million. And it's definitely considered one of the biggest in road running, one of the biggest events or series out there. And for the everyman out there, you can actually participate in them if you can gain entry into the races and even just finish. I mean, you don't have to be lightning fast like the elites, but there's a goal you can have to run all 6 of these, which are Boston, Chicago, New York, and then Berlin, London, and Tokyo. And so this is kind of it's been kind of a running over the last number of years that me and several of my friends had been trying to get our 6 stars. And when you finish, you get this really cool medal that you get at the finish line. It's that, so on top of your medal for each individual, that you get the 6-star medal for doing these 6 special races in the series. And so I was quite crushed initially that I had to forfeit my Tokyo entry back in 2019 because I was undergoing treatment. And then this year, the way it turned out, it was actually one of the first global events that the race was actually, they canceled the race for the 40,000 people that were running it, other than just the 200 or so elites because of COVID, right? When it hit back in late February in Asia. And, since then, obviously, most everything globally has been canceled for the season this year. But so I'm holding out. I was offered entry for 21 just last week, but I actually said I would defer. I'm not confident quite that by February of next year, the borders in the world will be quite opened up the way that we're hoping it will be. I have a hunch we're going to be another full year before we start to see the world that we once knew before everything kind of changed in the last few months.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. We had some big travel plans for next year as well. A destination that we had, wanted to go for a while. And same thing. I don't think it's happening. I think our destination is going to have to be a staycation, and that's just the world that we're in right now. Right. So obviously your plan is to run competitively again and make it a very significant part of your life again, to make the space for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hoping so. But you know what, like I said, I've learned to adapt a little bit and just be happy to be able to get out there again, because I really missed it, like that 9 months or so that I wasn't able to be doing much of anything. So it just, I get to do it, as opposed to, there would be some mornings I woke up and was overwhelmed, like I got to get out and do this. And it's something I had to do. And now I just see it as a privilege instead of sometimes just one more thing on the to-do list.
Exactly. It's funny that you say that, because that's one thing that I often talk to my own kids about is they'll ask, and it's just habit in their language, do we have to this? I mean, do we have to that? And I'm like, no, but you do get to. And, it hasn't become habit for them yet. And it's little things, like my daughter was on the volleyball team this past year, and, I have to go to practice. And I would say, no, you get to go to practice. Like, this is a privilege, because at 13, like, it doesn't get any better than that in terms of what you get to do. Right?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And so we're really working with the kids to try and Try and get that through for them.
I think we all need a reminder once in a while, I guess.
Yes, we do. And I mean, you grew up in small town Saskatchewan, it sounds like. And, Saskatchewan's home for me. I left for a number of years, but I came back and we've got it pretty darn good here. I think I'm a huge believer that if you don't like it, leave, because you'll either come back and you'll appreciate it, or you won't come back. And that's okay too, because then we don't have to, listen to somebody complaining about it. I lived in Toronto for just about, in the Toronto area for just about 5 years. And to be able to get places in 7 minutes, are you kidding? In Toronto, 7 minutes? I made it down the block. Right?
Yeah. So, and you hear people complaining if it's 15 minutes to get across town or whatever it might be. And I said, we've got it pretty good. I love the city, and I've really spent most of my life here. And I guess part of the reason too, I'm now involved, I'm on the board with the Regina District Chamber of Commerce. And, there are a lot of great people that are doing great things in the city, investing here, setting up business here, supporting community, giving back. It is a great, vibrant place to be. And I think some people kind of, forget that, and you dwell on little negatives. And, we do have a great city and a great community, and I'm happy to be here. And I think a lot of people, sometimes you take it for granted, but, it's a great place to be and a great place to work and to live and to raise a family.
Yes. And, we're all going to get out of it what we put into it. And so if you want to find the negative, or if you want to find the problems, no, you might not have to look far. But if you want to see the good, and whether it's in your community, in a person, in a situation, that's what you're going to see. So, it's a bit of that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So,
absolutely.
So tell me about how you're balancing it. Now, your kids are 19 and 21, so they require a little less supervision, and now they're just really expensive, probably.
Exactly.
Tell me how you're balancing it all, because you've definitely got to manage your health, and you're, active in the business. So how are you doing it all, Cari?
Well, sometimes I struggle a little with balance, but I find it's part of that. You got to pay yourself first. And I carve out time for my workouts first thing in the morning every day. And I find I am just a more productive, happier person to be around when I can do that, as opposed to a day where I think I've got too much to do. I should just get up and, roll out of bed at 5 and head straight to the office. It takes a toll, I think, on you mentally. You need to do whatever it is that thing is for you. For me, it's running. I laugh because I have friends that would much rather be in the gym lifting or something instead and absolutely hate running. I said, but for me, running is the one time where I can my head will actually clear, and, I'll have my brain is clean slate, and I'm ready to face everything. And I just feel like I'm a much more balanced person. And so that's really important that I get that done first every day. It's about, just being organized and, trying. I struggle a little with saying no once in a while, because I just find there's so many things I want to do. And especially now, I guess I think that's right now probably my biggest challenge is I'm supposed to be I'm still dealing with some fatigue from treatment. And I just find it so hard to not want to get back to do all the things I was doing before. And, things come up. So I guess that's one advantage of this whole pandemic has been that a lot of the social things in the world have all kind of stopped. Yes. So that's allowed me a little more time, to recharge a bit in the evenings and that sort of thing. But it is, I think it's just about, having focus, keep your eye on the big picture. It's really easy to sometimes get caught up in the day to day and, not stop and pause and, look further down. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? And set goals. Don't be afraid to set ones that seem a little unattainable, because it's all a step-by-step process. And I've learned, there are things that I never thought I would have been able to do that have just taken, it's a step-by-step, just, put the goal ahead and you can work your way toward it. And I think that's an important thing to remember when you feel somewhat buried or, lost a little bit.
Absolutely. Cari, if you can believe it, we're pretty much out of time already. Is there anything sort of in parting that you might like to leave with the audience? I think you've learned some big lessons in life in the last couple of years. Is there anything that you'd like to share with folks?
I think just don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone a little and to, set big goals and, I think the best thing I found is surround yourself with good people, with people that bring you up, that support you, that encourage you, that do great things. And I think if you surround yourself with the right people, it will bring you up and you'll be able to bring others up as well. And it's just being around people with the right attitude that, makes life good.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Well, thank you for joining me today. Hearing about your story and your journey. Most of my guests, come in and we talk about nothing but business. But our discussion today has really helped me appreciate that work isn't everything, and we need to, take the time to do the things that are important to us. So, thank you for joining me, Cari. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca or reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Above the Fold CA. And just a reminder, when our shows are live, which unfortunately they're not right now, you can even submit questions in advance of the live show just on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google Girl. Remember, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep it a secret. Bye for now.